When it comes to mixing, I don't think a lot of people understand what gain really is. When it comes to mixing, there's a lot of things we have to do. We have to focus on making sure we've got good sound sources, that we're mixing things that sound great and helping things that don't sound great to sound better. We're trying to balance all these signals coming into our board and making them sound as best they can. But there's a lot of times where we don't really realize that things like as simple as gain actually play a huge role in making things sound bad or good. So let's talk about that. So what is gain exactly? Well, gain is this tool we use in our consoles to increase the signal level of our source coming from either a microphone or a DI on your stage to something we can use and work with and hear with our sound console and our PA system. It's the first thing that your signal hits when it comes in, and it's usually something referred to as the preamp. Now, by turning your gain up, you increase the volume or perceived volume, if you will, of the signal because you're increasing the voltage of the signal source. By increasing it too much, you'll cause clipping or distortion, and it doesn't sound always that great. In fact, 9 times out of 10, you don't want this effect. But if you don't have enough, well, your source is going to be too quiet, and you're going to probably be struggling to figure out what to do other than maybe turn your fader up or maybe go turn your speakers up to try and make it louder. So how do I know when I have enough gain? Well, the easiest thing to do is to look at your meter. Your meter is designed specifically for this role. By targeting around -6 dB as our average point for where our signal is, that's not peaking, that's average, then we're able to decide, okay, we have enough signal because we've got headroom or room above that average in case our signal source gets too loud and it's not going to clip, but it's also not too quiet where we don't have enough and we're going to cause problems down the line. So by increasing or decreasing your gain to get that average signal level to around -6 dB, you're going to ensure that you're going to have plenty of gain and plenty of headroom so that way you can have good gain structure set up for the rest of your board. Now, what do you do if you're having way too much gain and even though your gain's all the way down, you've got just so much volume that your signal's clipping? Well, there's a couple things you can do. One, you can turn the pad on your board. That pad is actually something that happens before the preamp where it'll actually cut the signal by about 10 to 20 dB depending on your board. That can help alleviate the problem, but if you're still having issues where it sounds distorted or your meters say it's distorting, then you need to go up to stage and go figure out what the issue is. It could be your microphone is having an issue, maybe you're overloading the capsule. It could be that your DI is overloaded and you need to have the source turned down before it hits it. Sometimes DIs have pads on them too, so you can try there, but that's kind of where you would want to start next is to figure out where is the source getting too loud before it hits my console. Now, if your meter is showing that you're not getting enough signal and you've got your gain cranked all the way up, it's time to go take a walk to stage and go figure out what the issue is because 9 times out of 10, it's something at the source. Whether it's a DI that's not getting enough signal into it from like your keyboard, maybe they've got their volume turned down, or maybe it's a microphone that's not picking up the guitar amp. Maybe the microphone got bumped and it's no longer on the amp. It's just picking up the sound of the wall next to it. Check those things out first before you start diming your gain because that's just going to cause more issues like raising your noise floor, which is kind of like a hissy sound, or it's going to cause feedback issues if you're using it on like a microphone or something. Now, if your meter is showing that you've got a good average signal level, but the volume coming out of the PA is not at the point you want it, maybe it's too quiet, then it's time to start looking down the line. So things to check would be, is your compressor going off too much and you're compressing the signal and squashing the volume out of it? Is your fader too low? Bring it up to unity. That's where it should be most of the time. And then check to make sure your master fader is also up. If it's down, then you're also going to have issues where the volume output's too quiet. If all of those things are good, the last thing to check is your PA system. And that's going to be where you use your amplifier settings, whether it's a separate amp or it's your active speakers amplifier, and turn that up or down to correspond with the volume level you need. So if the signal coming out of your PA is quiet, but the signal on your board looks correct because of the meters, then that means it's time to turn your PA up to the level you need it to be at. Versus if your PA is too loud and the signal is good on the board, then it's time to turn it down. So once we've got all of our channels on our board set to good gains, then we can actually start doing other things like compression and EQ and using those tools, and they'll behave the way they're actually supposed to because they're expecting a certain signal source level to come into them. And lastly, once we get that all taken care of, we can use our faders to actually choose how much or how little we want to hear in our room. And that is all faders are for. They are designed just to choose how much we hear of each source. Gain is not that tool. faders are. And by understanding the difference between those two tools, you're gonna set yourself up for an incredible mix every time. If this video has been helpful to you at all in demystifying gain structure, be sure to subscribe and hit the like button, and drop a comment to let me know what questions you may have about how to get your church sounding the best it can. Also, if you want more tips right now, go to littlechurchbigsound.com, where I've got my top 5 tips ebook that you can download for free right now. We'll see you in the next video.